Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be an update to my tier list version 4.0. And what that means is it's been a few months since I've really took a deep dive into looking at the formula, into how champions are graded. So I have changed that formula just to get it up to date with how the state of raid is currently. I'm going to walk you through that thought process and walk you through the full update of my tier list so that we can keep this thing caught up and as accurate as possible. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so first things first, let's go ahead and pull up the tier list so you can see what I'm talking about here. So, okay, the way the tier list works, if you are new to my channel or new to Raid or haven't watched my previous tier list videos, I try to revisit this 2 or 3 times a year just to try to keep it up to date, because it's probably the thing in terms of my content that I do. The tier list is probably the thing I take the most serious, spend the most time on, and try to keep up to date, put the most effort into, basically. Because I remember when I was a new player, I was always wondering, okay, what do I do? How do I know who to spend my energy leveling up? Who do I spend books on? I have no clue what's going on. I've got these 30 or 40 champions. I don't know which ones are good. Don't know which ones to keep. Don't know which ones to invest in. And back when I was a new player, there really wasn't much out there in terms of helping you with that. So I really want to make sure I'm doing my best to help steer newer players into what to do. So that's what that's my thought process in terms of doing the tier list. It's never going to be perfect. It's just a starting point. It's a resource to use if you're curious on what you should do and maybe how a champion stacks up in terms of other champions. And I don't actually grade the champions like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down to 400 or whatever. What I do is I just plug in numbers for how good they are in certain areas of the game. And then I have a formula here in the overall box that grades them and ranks them. So I don't actually grade them 1 through 400. It's calculated by the sheet. So when you see Valkyrie, Venus, Chris, Sify, Draco, Bad L up there at the top, that is a representation of how their average score graded out. And then I have it weighted in different areas of the game so that it reflects the more important areas of the game, like Clan Boss, Arena, and now Faction Wars. It reflects that to show like if a champion's really good in the arena, that's more impactful than being really good in the like Ice Golem, because the Ice Golem's a dungeon that isn't super well grinded, or super often grinded, I should say. So being good in the arena or the clan boss or something is going to be more impactful than that rating. So I don't want all the numbers to be equally weighted. I want them to have some importance and be structured in a way where the formula would be more representative of like a full account value in terms of an early to mid game player summoning that champion and how much value that champion is worth having on your account for general utility. And a few months ago is when I released tier list 3.0. You see the thumbnail for that video on the screen right now. So this video is going to be version 4.0. I'll walk you through the changes I've made to the formula and why I did them. So right now, let's go ahead and pull up the new formula here. So there you will see the category and then what it was in 3.0 and what it is now in 4.0. The game has really changed a lot in the last few months in terms of how important different areas are, because of obviously Lydia being released very soon. I think it's like tomorrow in terms of me recording this video. That's why I wanted to get this out there to get everything up to date. Faction Wars is a lot more important now because of Lydia coming out. Lydia is insane. She's a really good champion, and basically Faction Wars is going to be the end game grind. So it's a very important area of the game. You'll see that's why it got bumped up from 7 to 12. And then the arena being bumped down pretty significantly from 24 to 17. The last time I did my tier list 3.0 was basically right when 3v3 arena was coming out, the tag team arena. And so I really bumped up the arena to be super valuable, because I was like, hey guys, there's classic arena, there's tag team arena. You're going to need like 20 different champions that are good in the arena to have a good roster. But the tag team arena has turned out to be like, I hate to be negative, but kind of a flop. It's not nearly as important as I thought it was going to be. They haven't really done a good job in terms of like the tiers are too exclusive, and there's not enough to spend your currency on. Things are too expensive. It's too hard to farm it. It takes too much time. I mean, that could be a whole separate video in the failings of 3v3 arena, in my opinion. So I'm not going to get too into that. But basically what you need to know is I don't think the arena is quite as important now as it was back then because of tag team arena. And then also because this is a credit to Plarium. They've made the classic arena a lot more realistic to farm for players in PvP than it was back when I did version 3.0. Back then, the arena was insanely hard. It was really hard for me to farm in Gold 4, and I am a very endgame player who has spent a decent amount of money on Raid, and it was almost impossible for me to farm Gold 4 consistently. So it was just, you were seeing like good players down in Bronze 4, Silver 1. The arena was just bonkers hard. So that's why I really bumped up the arena, was those couple reasons. The Classic Arena being insanely hard to progress in, and then Tag Team Arena coming out. But now, the credit to Plarium is Classic Arena is a lot more realistic for players to compete in, which I am a huge fan of, because the progress missions and the challenges and stuff are tied to PvP, so it needs to be realistic for your active players to actually progress and farm things for their great haul. So I am a fan of that. That's a good move. I hope the Classic Arena stays realistic for people to farm and progress in when they're active on their account. But on the downside, Tag Team Arena is not nearly what I was hoping it would be. It was nowhere near like the thunderbolt of amazingness that we all thought it was going to bring to Raid. So a good thing and a bad thing in terms of the arena, but either way, both of them kind of reflect the arena into not being as high of a value in terms of its weight in the formula for my tier list. And then you will notice the third thing that I need to talk about in terms of being changed. You'll see the book value up top from 10 to 12. And I bumped up the book value a little bit because now with Faction Wars being a lot more important, you're going to need to develop a lot of different champions on your account. So books, we all know, they're very frustrating to come by. You can't really farm them reliably. The only way to get them is offers and tournaments, and you can get like one a week in events and stuff. So books being as sparse and scarce as they are, and with coupling that with the amount of champions you're going to have to invest in and book up to go ahead and progress in that Faction Wars grind, I wanted to bump up book value a little bit and weight it pretty equal to Faction Wars, because they kind of work in tandem, the book value and the Faction Wars, in terms of having to invest in a wide array of different champions. And the way that the book value functions on the tier list is sometimes there may be a couple champions where you have a legendary and an epic, and the legendary might be a little bit better than the epic. But when you look at the book value, it's much cheaper. It's a much like cheaper investment to get maxed out when you compare the epic versus the legendary. So sometimes it might be the better route to go ahead and invest in that epic instead of the legendary, just because it's a lot less in terms of the value of book you're going to have to spend, and a lot less potions. So it's going to be a lot more realistic to build them up for an early to mid game player, as opposed to trying to max out a legendary. So that's why I put book value on there, so it can be a way to kind of break ties. It's like, okay, this rare and this epic are pretty close, but the rare has a much higher book value because rare books are a lot easier to come by than epic books. So I should probably start there and build that champion. So I hope I explained that okay, but that's why book value is there, and my thought process as to how it should function in terms of a player looking at it and kind of discerning some information from that number. And then everything else, mostly par for the course. That was kind of the things that I felt like should be changed given the state of Raid currently. Everything else is pretty stable. One thing I am looking forward to in a couple months, we don't know exactly when, I'll obviously have to redo I'll have to put in a full day's work and really redo the whole tier list probably, or at least a lot of it when the Doom Tower comes out. We'll have to see how the mechanics are functioning. I'll have to add that as a section to the tier list, put in the Doom Tower, and give each champion a ranking for that. That's going to be quite the project to add that in. And then I'm going to have to add it into the formula and redo it all. So probably the next version you'll see of the tier list 5.0 will be when the Doom Tower comes out, and we can really dive into the mechanics of exactly how that's going to function and which champions are going to be good in there. All that type of stuff will probably be when you get version 5.0 of the tier list. And then also something I wanted to touch on really quick before I let you go is you don't see Lydia, the Death Siren, on there yet, the reward for Faction Wars. It's because we do know her kit, we know most of the stuff, we got to see like the full teaser for Lydia, and we know what version of her is going to be coming live to the game, but I don't see her in game yet. So I don't know exactly how the books affect her skills in terms of the buff and debuff chances and the cooldowns and the damage, all that type of stuff. I have to see the champion in the game to really know how the books are going to affect the skills, and try to play around with her a little bit so I can try to get as accurate of a rank as possible. But odds are Lydia's going to grade out to like a 9.6, 9.7, and probably supplant those champions there at the top and slide in as the #1 champion in the game. If I had to predict right now, we are probably going to have a new #1 champion in the next version of my tier list, or at least when I get Lydia added and I can kind of take her for a spin. I have finished Faction Wars, so I will get Lydia when she is released. I will do my best to take her for a spin and test her in all the areas I can and get acclimated with her as a champion so I can get her on the tier list and get her ranked. So definitely stay tuned for that. I'll let you guys know. And the tier list is a living document. I always link it down in the vid description and a pinned comment on every single video, so that's really easy to find the most up-to-date version. I probably update this thing like 2 or 3 times a week and try to slide in there and make adjustments as I can. And like I said earlier, it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be things you can disagree on. There's like 5,000 different rankings on this thing, so there's always going to be one you can find that you disagree with, which is why I always welcome input when I'm streaming or in comment sections and stuff. I try my best to really read what people in the community are saying so that I can take input when somebody says, hey, why do you have this champion ranked this and this champion ranked this? And they kind of make their case. I'm like, there's been a lot of times where I'm like, yeah, you're right. I probably should change those 2 ratings in those respective boxes, and then I update the overalls and stuff. So there is lots of times where I use community input to try to make this thing as accurate as possible, and I try my best not to act like I know everything and use other people's opinions as well to get this thing to be an accurate resource as best I can to help people kind of have something they can use in terms of breaking ties when they don't know exactly which champions to invest in and which champions are good where, when they're kind of new to raid or trying to figure out, just have a starting point and a resource for ranking all the champions in the game. So yeah, guys, that's going to do it for version 4.0 of the tier list, and that is everything you need to know about how the formula is calculated and why the changes were made. So yeah, it's gonna do it for this one. As always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.